Matipa, who's in KwaZulu, to tell us a little bit about the setting and just to set the scene for us. Lerato, a very good morning to you. Is the party ready?
Yes, the party is ready. They said that they are going to make sure that they fill up the Wolfson Stadium. They wanted to paint it yellow and green, but it looks like it's all white. But they are said that the stage is set, as you can see, I'm standing on the stage, and the President, Bantu Olumise, has said that it's all systems go. Security is in place, healthcare is in place, and everyone is ready to launch this manifesto of the UDM. You remember that the party was launched in 1997 in the beautiful Transkei. So it was only fit for them to come back to their grassroots. Also take it back to the metro, where they only have the first time a UDM has a mayor, Mr. Bobani, who is from the UDM. So it was only fitting to come to the City of the Legends, only fitting to come back to the Eastern Cape, where they were born, to celebrate this great day. What's also been nice, as you can see with me right now, is that they've also tried to specialize people with special needs. If you just look to the corner quickly, as my cameraman just pans there quickly, they are also specializing people that have got disabilities, which is also part of the manifesto. So people with disabilities, not in the scorching sun, but in the shade. And that just shows just the caring nature of this party itself. But to talk more about this manifesto and what's in store this afternoon is the Chief Whip, Mr. Ngabomzi Konkwa. Mr. Ngabomzi, tell us briefly exactly what must people expect as they come to hear the President speak at this year's manifesto?
General Bantu Bonke Harrington Olomisa will be outlining the party's election and promises to the people if they were to elect us and make us the government of South Africa. The first issue obviously will have to do with addressing the economy, to say how do we create jobs for our people, more in particular for the youth. How do we ensure that we address the skills shortages in the system? But not only that, you've highlighted a very important issue just a few minutes ago, that we'll also be talking about people with disabilities, what programs the party is going to implement, what programs the party will outline. But in particular, I think what is important when it comes to our job creation strategy is not just to only focus on small businesses, but it is also to say we need to stimulate and provide more support to the informal sector of the economy, which is underestimated in South Africa and not measured properly, because that is where the biggest growth potential is. The other issue is what we feel that if you look at the unemployment rate, whether you're looking at it in terms of the strict definition of 27% or the expanded definition of about 40%, which includes discouraged work seekers, is the fact that it does not take into account in its totality the informal sector of the economy. There are many people, for example, in that sector who need to be provided more support, would be classified, if you understood the dynamics of that sector, would not necessarily be classified as unemployed, and so on. We would also be outlining strategies how we are going to address inequality, sort out poverty in South Africa. The President will also speak briefly about the issue of how we want to address the question of land redistribution.
With the question of land, I know that it's a topical issue right now. Certain parties saying they are for expropriation of land or compensation, others against. I know that the UDM in particular is for expropriation or compensation, but they're not for free-for-all land grabs. They are proposing a land in Durban where different stakeholders come together and you come up with concise, creative, innovative ways on how to deal with this issue. Elaborate more about that.
Well, look, you know, the UDM is not a party of anarchy. It would not be led by a former army general and be a party of anarchy and ill discipline. We are not in favor of land grabs, nor are we trying to try and adopt populist strategies in order to gain votes. But the bottom line is the state from where we're sitting does need to have the power and the ability mandated by the Constitution to be able to expropriate land without expropriation as and when the need arises. But we're saying that once you've effected that amendment in the Constitution, you first need to outline a program and conditions under which one or the state can be able to do that. Because tomorrow, remember, you might have another government. If you don't have a broad guidelines or conditions under which the government can do that, it's going to be a free-for-all land grab, similar to the kind of thing that happened in Zimbabwe. You don't want that. But what you also want, the reason why we're saying we need a national indaba, that would complement the parliamentary process to get more ideas, get more views from people about which targeted approaches we should be using. But in principle, we agree that the constitution must be amended, but it's just the how part, and to say how best to implement that resolution.
Mr. Nkwankwa, the huge target market for this year's elections are the young people. They are making the majority of our country. A huge problem also is youth unemployment. In your manifesto, or as the UDM, is there a concise plan to deal with a huge number of you're a young person yourself, I would relate to you as a young person. Is there a concise plan, first of all, to groom young leaders in the party? And then secondly, is there a concise plan to try deal practically with the issues of youth unemployment in the country?
Well, I'm a product of that concise and comprehensive plan to groom young people in the organization. There are many other leaders who will be speaking here today, delivering their messages of support on behalf of the different associate structures of the UDM as we launch this manifesto today. So in other words, we'll be showcasing the talent and the quality leaders that we have in this party, because there's this perception. At first, people used to say the UDM is a one-man show. Now they are calling it a Kwangwa Olomisa Inc., despite the fact that we have Mr. Filtane, for example, Honorable Filtane, who makes valuable and critical inputs in Parliament, who has to a large extent managed to dominate discussions about the land question. But insofar as the youth unemployment challenge that you are talking about, firstly we said we will stimulate economic growth, rather the small business development sector. We will focus on it. But secondly, what would ensure we do is we provide more support and try to formalize the informal sector of the economy, where a lot of opportunities would present themselves for young people. But not only that, it would be to fast track the entry of young people into the formal sector of the economy, invest in skills development programs, make sure that you address the mismatch that exists between the quality of the skills, rather the skill set that the education system churns out versus what the economy requires. Because in the medium to long term, that is the only way in which we can address the unemployment problem in South Africa.
Well, that was the Chief of Mr. Nkwankwa speaking about the practical ways they're going to address youth unemployment, saying that focusing on skills development at tertiary level to prepare students for skills to go to the work sector is how they're going to change it. But I hear that not far from me, and Divama Gwiji, I hear celebration songs, and I'm not alone. I'm with the beautiful Jayed-Leigh Paulse. She's with the audience to find out exactly what are they anticipating ahead of this year's address at the Manifesto for the UDN. Jade, on your side, what is happening?
Oh, Lorato, it's absolutely euphoria here on the grandstands, with both the young and the old really celebrating, singing, chanting songs, and just really taking in this day. I've heard so many struggle songs sang today, both old and new, and with new remixes as well. That's really very exciting to see many of the UDM supporters flocking in to the Issac Wolfson Stadium, and they're very excited to listen to their president, Bantu Holomisa, deliver that manifesto, but getting down to the root of the matter, and that's all of the socio-economic ills that we are facing as a country. And just kind of speak to some of the people, they're saying that education is the one thing that they want to be alleviated. Let's just chat to some of the people on the ground. Umama, what are some of the key issues that you want Bantu Holomisa to touch on today?
Sithi kubantu bonke sicela asiphe izindlu, sicela afundise abantwana bethu ngaphandle kwemali, siyasokola, sicela asenzele into ezinhle njengoba sincame ibhedi zethu nje bantu bonke phambili Holomisa, phambili mzukulwana Holomisa, sinethemba lakho noma ngeliba sibe lapha sincame ibhedi zethu seza kuwe kwezindawo zonke ugwele ikhumbi siname zonke izinto, umkhilili omthumileyo wakuholela usenzela izinto, siyahlutha ngenxa kamkhilili, phambili sicela izindlu, siyasokola, phambili mzukulwana Holomisa, phambili.
Really passionate there, saying that she believes that Bantu Holomisa will lead this country in the right way, and that there are several issues, key issues that need to be addressed, and he is the man to do that. Let's chat to another lady. Mama, what do you want to hear from the manifesto, and what are some of the problems that you are currently facing?
I want my children to come home because they are working far away from me. Another one is in Hof Mayor, and other one is Jeffreys Bay. I want to come here to get work. I want to Bantu Olomisa fix my house because I've been since 25 years in ANC. ANC do nothing for me. Thank you.
I know that housing is one of the big problems in the country, but also electricity and water. Are you currently also experiencing that issue?
Yes, water, it's a problem of water and electricity, and the streets, must fix the streets also, tar road, please ma'am.
Let's move on to another lady over here. Mama, what do you want to hear from that manifesto, and what are some of the problems that you have in your community?
Ndihlala e-dispatch. Ndingunokwakha Ncikashe. So into endiyinqwenelayo phayana abantwana bethu abaphangeli thina sineclub singamaxhewukazi sibadala singumasimanyane club akho nto siyenzelwayo sihlala kwi-rent office endala yayiyikliniki asinamanzi asinambane asinazitoileti iyawa laa ndawo omnye uphantsi ukutshona phayana ipolile iinkokheli sinazo kodwa zisenzela into sina 25 years sisebenzela sizi-veterans zalo mbutho kodwa kho nto yenzekayo sina 5 years sihleli kulaa rent office akho nto basenzela yona basijonge nje kanti oba ndimxelele ngokumeya wethu utata ubobani nakakasilungiselele sidikiwe ndilapha kwi-UDM ngokudikwa zinto ezenziwa yi-ANC ndicela uxolo mabandixolele mabandiyeke ndilapha kwi-UDM sinomama omkhulu ona 90 years akazange ahambe so ke ngoku thina sifuna i-UDM mna Mrs. Ncikashe ndifuna i-UDM andifuna omnye umbutho ndiyi-Women's League pha kwa-ANC kodwa khange ndenzele nix kwanele.
Nkosi Mama. So, you know, the feel on the ground is that there are several issues that still need to be addressed, and they are pleading with the UDM, they are pleading with the president of the UDM, Bantu Holomisa, to address those key issues, such as education, such as water and sanitation, electricity, housing. Much more importantly, the one woman who was coming out of Uitenhage, Etenach, as we all know in the Eastern Cape, saying that the housing problem is still very, very critical. So they're pleading on the mayor, Bobani, who's also a UDM member, to look into these matters, and they're very, very positive about the change the UDM can bring. And with that, it's back to studio.
Our thanks there to our reporters that are at KwaZulu-Natal at the launch of the UDM election manifesto that's going to be happening in a short while. We believe the stadium slowly starting to fill up there, but there's another launch